I'd been in the Keys for less than 24 hours. The sun was finally setting, casting that orange glow over the ocean, and I was letting myself relax for the first time in, well, I couldn't even remember how long. 12 years of working my ass off, barely taking a vacation. And now, here I was. The breeze coming off the water was warm, and the only sound was the gentle crash of waves against the shore. I had a drink in my hand, a gin and tonic, the first drink I'd had in a long while. The bubbles tickled my throat, and for a second, I let myself believe that I might actually be able to take a break. Then, my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with an urgent message from Mark. Mark, my boss. The guy who only ever contacted me outside of office hours when shit was hitting the fan. I felt the knot in my stomach before I even opened the email. The subject line was blank. That was never a good sign. I opened it, holding my breath like I was about to dive underwater. Effective immediately, you are terminated. Do not return. I stared at the screen. The words didn't make sense. I had to read them again to make sure I hadn't misread it. Terminated. After 12 years of sacrificing my health, my time, my family for that job, this was how it ended. A single email, no meeting, no warning, nothing. I sat there for a long time, the air around me suddenly feeling too heavy, my drink now warm in my hand. My vacation had been the first time in 3 years I'd taken any real time off, and this was how it ended, like a bad joke. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mark. I didn't even bother opening it. What did it even matter now? I stared out at the water, my mind numb, the waves crashing against the shore, almost mocking me. The sun was setting, and I just sat there. How did it all come to this? I took another sip of my drink, the sharp taste almost as bitter as the situation itself. The sun had almost dipped below the horizon when I pulled out my laptop. I wasn't in the mood for this, but I knew I had to check something. The email from Mark had completely knocked me off balance, but a deeper, darker thought started to settle in. Something from years ago, something I'd almost forgotten. I opened my laptop and logged into AWS. I didn't even hesitate when I typed my credentials. I'd memorized them long ago. Hell, I practically lived in the AWS console back when the company was a startup and everything was held together by duct tape and a prayer. It was the only thing that worked in those early days when no one had any money, not even a little bit. I'd been the one to finance the infrastructure out of my own pocket because no one else was willing to take the risk. The company couldn't afford to pay for the servers, so I'd put it on my credit card. I was young and hungry back then, believing that if I worked hard enough, it would all pay off. But as the years passed and the company grew, no one bothered to fix the system. I'd warned them about it a dozen times. Hell, I'd even written up a proposal to transfer the AWS account to the company's name. But Mark, the legal team, they just ignored it, said it was too much of a hassle, too expensive. A few $1,000s wasn't worth the effort, they said. And I guess they thought I was just some guy pushing paperwork, not realizing that the whole company's backbone was still hanging on my personal credit card. I clicked through the AWS console, the screen glowing bright in the dim light. My fingers hovered over the dashboard as I checked the billing info. My heart thudded in my chest. Everything. It was all still under my name. Every server, every data point, every damn resource. They were all tied to my personal credit card. I was the one holding the keys to the kingdom, and nobody even knew it. I leaned back in my chair, stunned. The weight of it hit me all at once. Mark and the rest of the leadership thought the company was running smoothly, like the infrastructure was just another cog in the machine. They had no idea that without me, their entire system was nothing but a house of cards. I scrolled through the billing statements, my eyes landing on the total amount they were charging every month. I'd been quietly footing the bill for years. The company's AWS costs were through the roof, and my personal credit card had been the silent carrier of it all. It should have pissed me off. Hell, part of me was pissed off. But the other part of me, the part that was feeling cold and detached, I knew what needed to happen next. I closed my laptop, the plan already starting to take shape in my mind. My fingers hovered over the phone, and without hesitation, I called the bank. It was time to cut the flow off. I called the bank and froze future charges on the credit card. Then I restricted administrative access to the AWS account, locking out new changes and billing modifications while leaving the core services running. The moment the transaction was done, I felt the shift. It was no longer just a company firing me. Now, I was holding their fate in my hands. Every minute that passed without proper administrative access pushed the system closer to a full operational failure. I sat back, the faintest smirk tugging at my lips. The company might think they were free from me, but in reality, they were screwed. And they had no idea. I woke up with a pounding headache the next morning, the kind of headache that felt like a weight pressing down on my skull. I stumbled out of bed, barely registering the sunlight creeping in through the blinds. My body was sore, my mind foggy, but there was something else too, something sharper, a new sense of clarity. I wasn't stressed about finding another job anymore. Hell, I didn't even care if I ever worked for anyone again. I was in control now. I had the upper hand, and I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. I grabbed my phone and checked the company's internal communication channels. The usual messages from my old coworkers filled the screen. But this time, there was an unmistakable panic in the air. The servers were crashing. It started slow, just a few minor glitches, some delays. But now, it was a full-blown mess. People were scrambling. I could see the panic building up in real time as teams tried to figure out what was wrong, but they weren't getting anywhere. Not without me. Mark's name kept popping up on my notifications. I opened the first message from him. "Dave, what's going on? We're having issues with the cloud infrastructure. Can you help?" There were dozens more just like it, each one more desperate than the last. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened the company's Slack channels. The IT team, led by Kevin, my old colleague, was all over the place. They were trying to troubleshoot, sending messages back and forth like mad. But there was no way they were going to fix it. The core of the system was mine. I knew that better than anyone. I could feel my finger hovering over my phone. It would be so easy to help them, to just give them the access they needed, but I wasn't going to do that. Not yet. I opened up a new email to Mark. It was short, clean, to the point. "I'm no longer employed by the company. Please refer to the contract you never bothered to update." I hit send without even blinking. Then I closed my laptop, set it aside, and stepped out onto the balcony. The beach was right there, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore somehow calming me down. I wasn't worried, not about the company's collapse. I was enjoying my morning, knowing I was about to disrupt everything they'd built. I let the warm breeze hit my face and listened to the chaos unfolding on the other side of the world. It was happening fast, more messages from Mark, and Kevin's frantic attempts to fix the situation. But I wasn't going to help them, not until they realized how badly they needed me. It wasn't about ruining the company, not completely, but I wanted them to feel it. I wanted them to understand that without me, they were lost. Hours passed, and the systems continued to crash. I could feel the pressure mounting, and I knew Mark and the rest of the board were starting to realize that they were running out of time. Then, a new message came through. This time, it was from a competitor. "Looks like things are falling apart over there. Interested in talking?" I stared at the screen for a second, a slow grin spreading across my face. The competitors were already watching the meltdown unfold. I had no idea where this was going, but I wasn't worried. I was in control. By midday, the panic was everywhere. My phone buzzed constantly, more messages from Mark, desperate, pleading. He wasn't even pretending to be calm anymore. The systems were completely down, and there was no way for anyone to fix it without me. I finally picked up the phone when I saw Mark's name flash across the screen. The sound of his voice came through the speaker, thick with frustration. "Dave, what the hell is going on? You've got to help us fix this. We're losing everything. I'll double your previous pay if you come back. Just, please, we need you." I didn't flinch. I wasn't even mad, just calm. "Mark, I'm not coming back," I said, the words coming out easy, like I was just explaining something simple. "I'm no longer tied to the company. Helping you out now, it's a liability for me. I'm done." There was silence on the other end for a beat. Then I heard it. The unmistakable sound of Kevin's voice in the background, calling my name, desperate. "Dave, please. We can't fix this without you. You've got to come back." I could feel the weight of the situation on my shoulders, but I didn't feel bad. If anything, it was almost satisfying. I was the one holding the whole thing together for years, and now they were on their knees, begging for help. Mark's voice came back, louder, more frantic now. Dave, you can't do this. You're holding the company hostage. If you don't fix this, I swear I'll take legal action. You'll pay for this. I took a deep breath and leaned back in my chair. Legal action. The irony of it hit me all at once. The same people who ignored my warnings for years, who never bothered to update a damn contract, were threatening to sue me. You don't get it, Mark, I said slowly, almost like I was explaining something to a child. I won't be returning. If you want control again, you'll have to pay for it. You've been using my credit card for years, you've been relying on me without even realizing it, and now you're going to have to pay for it. Mark didn't respond right away. I could hear his breathing on the other end, and for a second I thought maybe he was just processing the weight of what I'd said. But then his voice cracked with desperation. Dave, please, this isn't how it ends. I stayed silent. He wasn't getting it, not yet. But as I sat there, listening to his desperation, I realized something. This wasn't just about getting back at them anymore. This was about taking what was mine, finally. The years I'd spent sacrificing everything for that company, my health, my time, my life, they had discarded me like I was nothing, and now I had the power. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again, a new call coming in. I glanced at the screen. It was a competitor. Vertex Systems. I answered, already knowing what was coming. Dave, we've been following the situation, the voice on the other end said, smooth and calm. Looks like things are falling apart over there. We'd love to talk to you about joining us. I leaned forward in my chair, trying to keep my voice steady. The CTO from Vertex, Alina, had just pitched me a role, double my current salary and a signing bonus. A generous offer. But that wasn't what I wanted. I could feel the pull, the momentum building, and I wasn't about to settle for just a paycheck. Alina, I appreciate the offer, I said, keeping it casual, like we were just talking shop. But I'm going to need more than a salary boost. I'm sitting on a gold mine right now. I have control over Cloud Corp's entire cloud infrastructure. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could almost hear her thinking, weighing her options. When she spoke again, her tone had changed, sharp, calculated. I understand, she said. What are you proposing? I smiled, the excitement of the moment barely contained. I wasn't just going to jump ship. No, I was going to take what I'd earned. I want you to buy out Cloud Corp's AWS infrastructure. It's all still under my name. I've got the keys to the entire system. If you want me, I need you to buy it from me. And I'm not talking chump change. I'm talking $5 million. The line was quiet for a long second. I could practically hear her mind racing as she calculated the value. She was good. Too good, actually. I'll present the offer to the board, Alina finally said, her voice steady now, like she'd made her decision. But you'll need to move fast. The situation with Cloud Corp's infrastructure is falling apart. If you can make this happen, we'll make sure it's a done deal. I felt the weight of it all, the years of toil, the ignored warnings, and now this. The power was shifting. I was in control now, and everything I'd built was going to pay off. I'll wait for your call, I said, ending the conversation with the confidence of someone who knew they held all the cards. I sat back, letting the silence settle in around me. My phone buzzed with more notifications. Mark, Kevin, and a handful of people from the board. They were all scrambling, trying to get me to come back. Too late for that. I quickly fired off an ultimatum to Mark. It was short, sharp, and to the point. Pay me $5 million for the infrastructure, or you're looking at a total collapse. I control everything. Don't waste any more time. It felt good, almost too good. The old me, the one who had sacrificed years for that company, would have been sweating, torn between guilt and loyalty. But not now. Now, I had power. I leaned back in my chair, a grin slowly spreading across my face. With the new offer from Vertex on the table, I had an escape route, but I wasn't just walking away. I was winning. The only problem was Mark's pride. I knew he wouldn't back down easily. This was going to get ugly, fast. But I was ready. I'd already decided I wasn't going to let him off the hook. Not this time. The next few hours were a blur. More messages, more calls, more desperation from the board. But it wasn't until I checked my email again that I saw it. The first signs of a buyout deal from Vertex. They were already moving on it. That complicated things. I was close to securing everything. My future, my payout, my power. But if Vertex swooped in and took Cloud Corp under their wing, things would get messy. Would the board even listen to me if they had their sights on the acquisition? I pushed the thought aside. I had a plan, and I was sticking to it. For once, I was in control, and no one was taking that away from me. I was sitting on the balcony, letting the sea breeze hit my face when my phone rang. The number flashing on the screen was familiar, but I didn't recognize the name. Jonathan Sterling, chairman of the board at Cloud Corp. I sat up, straightened my shirt, and answered. "Dave," his voice came through the phone, calm, but with that hint of desperation creeping in. "We need to talk. This has gone far enough. We're prepared to wire you the $5 million for the infrastructure as soon as the deal is finalized. But you have to turn everything back on now." I wasn't surprised, not really. The panic was in his voice, and I could tell he was already sweating. He thought this was going to be easy. Just pay me the money and go back to business as usual. But I knew something he didn't. They were in way deeper than they realized. "I'm not turning it back on until the full sum is in my account," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, like I was just laying down a simple condition. Jonathan hesitated, and I could feel the tension building in the silence between us. I could hear him shuffling papers on the other end, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. "Dave," he said, his voice tight, "this isn't how we planned this. You're asking for a lot." I laughed, a little more bitter than I intended. "I'm not asking for anything. I'm telling you. You wanted to play it fast and loose with my credit card. You wanted to ignore me for years, and now you're going to pay the price. You're not getting control back until the money's in my account." Another pause. This time, it wasn't just hesitation. It was real hesitation, the kind that made it clear they didn't know how to handle someone who wasn't bowing to their demands anymore. "I'll arrange it," he finally said, a little defeated. "We'll wire the money immediately, but you have to turn the services back on." "Deal," I said, hanging up without another word. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. As the clock ticked on, I realized the full scope of it. Everything they'd built, all the systems that kept Cloud Corp running, were in my hands. Every minute that passed was another minute they were spiraling out of control. The silence around me felt heavy, like the calm before the storm. But as I sat there, waiting for the confirmation email to come through, I got another call. This time, it was Alina from Vertex. "We're moving forward with the buyout, Dave," she said quickly. "But you need to restore the cloud services immediately. The whole deal hinges on it." I didn't even hesitate. "I know what's at stake, Alina. I've got the leverage here. I'll restore the services once the funds are in my account." There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could tell she was trying to figure out how hard to push. "I understand," she said, her tone shifting. "Just don't make us wait too long. We need to move fast." I smiled, leaning back in my chair. I wasn't in a hurry. They were. As I prepared to send the contract over to Jonathan, a message popped up on my phone. Kevin, my old coworker. "Dave," the message started, "it's over. The leadership is folding. They're talking to Vertex about a full acquisition. This is bad. You need to do something." I stared at the message, my heart picking up speed. The board was that close to folding under pressure. They couldn't handle it. Not without me. Not without the power I held. I shot a quick reply to Kevin. "It's too late to save them." Then I set my phone down and hit send on the contract. The deal was on. The press conference was set up in the sleek conference room at Vertex's headquarters. The cameras were flashing, reporters shuffling into their seats. I stood at the back, watching everything unfold. This was it. The culmination of everything. The buyout was final, and I was now officially the VP of Infrastructure at Vertex, leading the combined company's tech strategy. Across the room, I saw Mark, standing awkwardly near the edge, his face pale. He was fidgeting, clearly uncomfortable in the new reality. He wasn't the one calling the shots anymore. It was strange to watch him like that, weak and defeated, knowing how powerful he used to feel. I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Mark had never understood what I brought to the table. Now, it was impossible to ignore. The CEO of Vertex took the podium first, all polished and confident. He spoke about the future of the company, about growth and new opportunities. Then he turned to me with a smile, and the room went quiet. Now, I'm pleased to introduce the new leader of our combined company's tech strategy, the former backbone of Cloud Corp's operations, Dave. A few reporters clapped, but the air felt different, heavy with change. I stepped up to the podium, the weight of the moment settling on me. I looked out over the crowd, felt Mark's eyes on me, and for the first time, I wasn't looking to anyone for approval. I spoke, calm and steady. No need for long speeches or grandiose words, just the truth. I've spent years building systems that ran this company. I've watched it grow, only to see it fail to protect what truly mattered. Leadership is about accountability. It's about making sure the people who work for you feel valued, that their contributions count. When the people at the top fail to see that, it all falls apart. I paused for a moment, letting my words sink in. Mark was standing at the back now, looking more like a ghost than a leader. This is where leadership starts, I continued, and it starts with knowing who really holds the keys. The room was still, all eyes on me. I could feel Mark's presence in the back, his silence speaking volumes. There was nothing left for him to say. The company had crumbled beneath him, and now it was mine for the taking. As I finished, I stepped away from the podium, my heart pounding in my chest. The deal was done. I had secured my future. And more than that, I had made sure everyone knew exactly who they had underestimated. Walking away from Cloud Corp was easy. The past few years of stress, sacrifice, and constant grind, they didn't matter anymore. I had power now, and it wasn't about the paycheck, the title, or the new office. It was about knowing I'd finally taken control of my life. I wasn't at anyone's mercy anymore. The chaos of Cloud Corp was someone else's problem now. Mark, the board, everyone who'd ignored me for so long. They'd be left to pick up the pieces. I left the conference room feeling lighter than I had in years. There were no more late-night calls, no more scrambling to fix problems that weren't mine to begin with. And as I walked out, I knew one thing for sure. I would never be underestimated again.